as we're talking about people who want to get into business, it's kind of seeing the areas that you could be passionate about, or you already have the skill set behind. So you already are passionate about cars. You know how to put them together. You have the AV background, which is incredible. So we're talking about the passions, and you started out just knowing a good cup of coffee, wanting a good cup of coffee, and then in addition to that, what happened was you started to learn along the way. So you gave yourself license to learn. For anyone who, specifically, wants to get into the food truck world, what is one piece of advice that you would give them in the process?
Make sure whatever you're doing is fun. Because if it's not fun, it's work. And if it's work, who wants to go to work? And, and that's really what it boils down to. I've told my wife, I've told everybody, the minute that what I'm doing with this truck becomes work, I'm going to sell the truck,
Hey everyone, welcome back to Access Las Vegas. My name is Sharelle Mendenhall. I'm your host, and today I have a very special guest, an entrepreneur who started his very own coffee truck. Please help me welcome Todd West.
Hi.
So, Todd, I want to talk about, because you have such a fun, creative name. It's called Grinds on the Go. You have a coffee truck. I personally have tasted them. They're absolutely delicious coffees. But how did you get into the coffee truck business?
That was purely an accident.
An accident?
So, roll it back probably an easy 6 years. I've been into car shows, fixing up cars since I've been old enough to drive. So at a car show up in Utah, my brother and I walked about 4 blocks to go find a decent cup of coffee. We come back and we're sitting at the cars, and we kind of looked at some kids selling muffins or whatever out of their dad's truck or out of their dad's bus. And we just kind of turned to each other and like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a show car that sold a decent cup of coffee, and that was the spark.
No way. And I didn't even know the beginning of that, because obviously you and I met, later on in the story, but I didn't even know the beginning. That's really cool. So you acquired this truck. Did you already have it, or did you go out and get it?
No, that came into play during COVID.
Okay.
I had nothing better to do. The casinos were shut down. I'm just doing this, wondering if I'm going to even go back to work.
Right.
So I decided that, let's try to move on making a coffee truck. It's like, hey, you can't, tell me to not work, out of, mobily, you can shut down my brick and mortar store, but
right.
You can't shut me down if I'm a food truck. So I started trying to, my original thought for a vehicle was way out of my price range.
Yeah.
So I kind of just started figuring out other vehicles to use, and I came into my budget with the truck that I've got now, and I just started cutting and welding and storyboarding out the way that I wanted the truck to look, and 4 years later, here I am. So
that's so incredible. And I mean, personally, like, I have seen and followed you on social media, and you have had, weeks you've had to put in how many hours in order to make sure that it was ready by Saturday? Like, it's needs a new engine part, needs a new needs a new put together, needs a new.
Yeah, you need, when you're dealing with cars and your job getting you to the gig, you have to be careful on what you take down. Otherwise, you're going to miss the gig, you know? So I mean, now I'm finally at a place where I can reliably, go. But there was a point in time where, even like I was down for a year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for, between not last October, but the October before last, I was down for almost a year because engine went down and the transmission went down at the same time. It's a 49-year-old vehicle.
Right.
Stuff's gonna happen, know. So it took about a year to get everything back, but now, because I'm into the show car thing, now it's all back together again. Everything's new, shiny, chrome, all that kind of cool stuff that isn't your typical food truck build.
Right.
There's nothing typical about this, and that's what I think is kind of fun about it.
It's so fun. It's so fun, and I love it, and I love the truck itself. I love how you have it set up, and you call it Grinds on the Go. How'd you come up with the name?
That was my brother. It was my brother. We were toying around with things, and we came up first. It was like Gears and Grinds or something like that. But then you start doing that, and then all of a sudden you run into car shows that are called that.
Okay.
So I don't want to have that type of confusion. There is probably, I'm sure I'm not the only person that's used Grinds on the Go, but nothing that's really used too much in the business world as far as doing your business license searches and all of that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
but it's definitely been an undertaking. A lot of stuff that you never really realize until you get down in it and start doing it. I've always built cars. Building cars is one thing. Building a food truck is a whole nother monkey, because there's a lot of health department stuff that you have to deal with. And
right.
Things that you would normally do with building a show car, you can get away with certain things. But now you're all of a sudden, you're like, okay, now I need to figure out how I'm going to get 6 feet of working height in this truck.
Right.
That there isn't, so you need to find it.
Exactly.
So now you
have to find it.
And I found it, and barely, but it's legal.
Yeah. So I want to talk about kind of our initial conversation, which was really fun, because your brother comes into play on that one as well. So I got a random message through social media asking a question if we were in fact local. And that was kind of like our initial conversation because, on my side, we have a coffee company named, Mendenhall, and also born during COVID, where we wanted just a company that was not just coffee like everyone else had, but we wanted to make sure that it was organic, that it was fair trade, that we were locally sourced, that we do everything we possibly could. And, we paid attention to mold, every little detail, the acidity of the coffee. And obviously, like you said, during COVID, you have a lot more time to just be really, really particular about what you were doing and what you were creating. In addition to that, we wanted to give back. It's just like, it's one thing to just have a business, live your life, but the next thing is like, man, it feels so good to give back to the community. So she's like, I live here, play here, work here, I want to give back here. So that was kind of the thing that was curated on our side. And we may or may not have thrown some big wraps around cars, signs on our cars. And that's really where I believe, and I haven't heard, this full conversation from your side, but where I got a message in my inbox, are you guys really local? So tell me about that. How did that happen?
The way that happened is my brother sent me a picture of your car. Now, because we're car peeps, we like, and it's good on you for you didn't need the big wrap all over you. You just had the right car. So he's like, hey, check this out. And look, it looks like they sell coffee. So you might want to give them a buzz. So I looked, I'm like, definitely. Especially because when I asked you if you're local, I want to support local businesses. I could go anywhere and get, my coffee beans from whoever, but I want to, I'm a local business. I want to support a local business. So that's that was the initial, are you really local? Because you don't know anymore. You don't. So.
It's true. And then in addition to that, like something that we had just as far as the company and what you wanted brings us back to your original conversation of wanting to have an actually good cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. So it's just like the quality, which was really important to you. What is it that you have? What blends do you have? So we kind of went down that full conversation, which I love, because as a business owner, like you wanted to ensure that you were representing and bringing the best that you could find to the table under your, guidelines. Because you'd been through other brands before, mm-hmm. correct?
Yeah. And again, I've never, I'm more of a coffee nerd now than I was, mm-hmm. Before I'd know a good cup of coffee, don't get me wrong. But,
right.
But, knowing all of the, this grind for this drink and this brew and, it's a little,
It is, especially when you talk to Mike. So we, one of our business partners for Menda Nation, and he's what you call a Q grader, and most people don't know what that is, but they're the world experts in coffee. So again, I get zero credit for the back end of this, because he's the one that curated everything. It has almost 1% less acidity than water, and he will tell you where it's grown, how it's grown, to ensure that you don't have the mold, because everyone's talking about the toxicity in coffee now and how toxic it is, and all these social media things popping up, and it's like, hey, great, we've done everything we possibly can, because organic doesn't mean that it's instantly without mold.
I know, yeah.
And people don't realize that. And so understanding like who you source it from, how you source it, when you source it, everything is so important, so that way you're not drinking a cup of toxicity.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Yeah, no,
it's a process, and that's where Mike kind of brings his expertise, which is really beautiful. Well, I want to talk about a little bit about the business side of things. So, is it glamorous? Is it glamorous to be an entrepreneur and a food truck owner?
There is nothing glamorous about it. There is nothing. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody off. I mean, it's great to be able to do it for yourself and not have to rely on anybody, but on the same token, I came into this not knowing anything other than I want to build a cool truck and I'm going to sell coffee out of it. And then all of a sudden I find out, okay, I need this license, I need this license, I need this license. And if I want to go to a car show and sell coffee at this one, so I got to get licenses all over the city. So every single, then I'm like, wow, all I wanted to do was just sell some coffee at a car show.
Right.
So there's just that part of things.
Right.
And then, like I brought up before, it's trying to find that happy medium of, I want to be able to park my car at my house because that's where I trust that it's not going to get messed with, know? So now you got to start finding all of the legal speak in the health department's very gray, open for interpretation books, of what you can do and can't do. And I've got some friends that were able to guide me through, like, yes, you can park it here, but you need to make sure that you abide by this, and this, otherwise you're going to get flat, and that's that balancing act, because I do want to have that show car that just happens to be selling coffee, but when you go too far off of that line, then you're not selling any coffee because people don't realize that you sell coffee.
That's a good point.
How do you build, and that's been a learning experience for the past 2 years that I've been actually
advertising
doing it,
doing it.
So,
and that's one thing so we haven't talked about that yet. So I kind of have alluded to, they can find you on Saturday, but tell me, where is that? What time? Because every Saturday, and I've been seeing recently, your daughter's been out there hanging out with you at these car shows. Yes, your CEO, shall I say. So where is that you're posting up every Saturday here in Las Vegas?
It's Celebrity Cars and Coffee. I wish I knew the address off the top of my head, but it's Eastern. There's like a Twin Peaks is like the anchor of that little area, that plaza. Yeah. So I'm there 7 to 10 every Saturday morning, and it's good times. You see all different kinds of from classic cars to the Corvette guys to the VW guys to, it's just, it's always different. You get the regulars, but you're always seeing something different.
That's awesome. And is that have you established like a cool customer base by being there every week?
Yeah, it took a little while, but yeah. And people, and that's, people get I get a good response from the truck. They like, the more people come and see me, then they give me ideas too, it's like, hey, you should try doing this. So, now I've got, my business cards are now kind of, stamp cards, so now they can come back, they buy 9 get their 10th coffee free, kind of thing, so I just kind of I start realizing that, oh, okay, you're the one that has the latte with the with the equals that you're gonna bring me, and and it gets fun, just meeting all the different people and the regulars that come in.
And just recently, you were actually at the Roar Fest. So you were at our pop-up Roar Fest at Encounter. People loved your coffee truck. I mean, people were raving just about the different types of coffee drinks that you came up with. So your menu changes. You have your kind of standard menu, but then you actually have some fun ones that you do for the holidays. And that was for Valentine's Day. And I've seen that you created some for St. Patty's Day, for different holidays. How do you come up with those drinks?
I'm not gonna lie. There's a little 2-letter combo that helps me out from time to time as far as getting names and stuff, But I just kind of try to like pull in. Okay, first I get like a car theme kind of thing, Then I say, okay, Valentine's Day. Okay, I got a lot of reds, a lot of chocolates, a lot of this, So now what kind of drinks are going to pair good, whether it's raspberry and chocolate, that always generally goes good. So I'm going to, put those flavors together, get it dialed in right, and then I'll give it a fun name, you know, so, and that kind of follows suit with every holiday. And I like to keep it fun, and having digital menus, because that's kind of another thing that I've done. Like my career has always, I just kind of pooled in all of my talents together. So I've got AV, I've got automotive, I've got, coffee now. So I it gives me the ability to do that, because printing is expensive.
Yeah, you're right.
So to be able to, come up with a silly little menu for a couple of weekends, that costs a lot of money in printing. So because I've got TVs built into the truck, it's just as easy as setting at my computer, okay, and spit out a new menu, and it's up and didn't cost me a dime. So
right, that's incredible. And I think that what you said is really important as we're talking about people who want to get into business, is kind of seeing the areas that you could be passionate about, or you already have the skill set behind. So you already are passionate about cars. You know how to put them together. You have the AV background, which is incredible. And obviously the digital menu looks so beautiful. It looks beautiful because sometimes the printing is off and doesn't look like you want it to look. And then you're right, it goes away. After, your holiday, it's gone and it's outdated and you don't want to put it out there anymore. So the digital menu looks beautiful. But what advice beyond that? Because we're talking about the passions, and you started out just knowing a good cup of coffee, wanting a good cup of coffee, and then in addition to that, what happened was you started to learn along the way. So you gave yourself license to learn. And you sought out friends, obviously, to help you in the process. So what is like one piece of advice for anyone who, specifically, wants to get into the food truck world? What is one piece of advice that you would give them in the process?
Make sure whatever you're doing is fun. Because if it's not fun, it's work. And if it's work, who wants to go to work? And, and that's really what it boils down to. I've told my wife, I've told, everybody, the minute that what I'm doing with this truck becomes work, I'm going to sell the truck, that's it. Because being an entrepreneur, being somebody, to work for themselves, you're your boss. So, it's easy to hate your boss and you're like, I quit. But, if you're not having fun doing what you're doing, then just don't do it. I hate it to sound like that, but
But I mean, you're right. It's like, it's both pieces. You still have to have a love. You still have a passion for it, because there are going to be days, like in essence, there could be a lot of work that goes into it, but it doesn't feel like work.
That's it. Is, I'll work all day on my truck, doing something on the stereo or doing something on the engine to make it look cool, and it's a lot of work, but it doesn't really feel like work.
Yeah.
So that's, and I've had those points, back, and I know when to pass it off. When it came down to the engine was just not becoming reliable enough, or I was scared to drive it and I just couldn't. I didn't have the time. I'm just like, well, it's going to cost me a little bit of money, but at least I have the peace of mind that, somebody who does like to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, that's smart. And it's outsourcing where you need to. That's really important. I think one of the things too, just like as far as business is concerned, I just finished reading a really incredible book, and it was talking about mental mind mapping. And I feel a lot of people have brilliant ideas, but they don't know where to start. And to your point, you actually said it a little earlier. You said that you did some storyboarding. So what did that look like for you when you were putting this all together? Because again, you've never done this before. It was just in the middle of COVID and you had time. So what did the mental mind mapping or the storyboarding process look like for you?
First, I knew what is typically, you want in a show car that's gonna attract attention. Then you start looking, okay, I need to put all this stuff in there. So, okay, if I get all this equipment, if I get the right equipment, I can kind of Tetris it all out and make sure that I have room to work. Then, but still not ruin the look that I'm trying to go for. And there was a lot of trial and error stuff. I mean, through the course of almost being ready to go, and then the fire happening, and then it making me start back over again.
Wow.
But these are things that happen. This is either just, but everything happens for a reason, and I firmly believe in that, even from the time that my brother took that picture of your car and sent it to me, it was like, otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
If that fire didn't happen, then my truck wouldn't look I wasn't mad at the way it looked before, but I was kind of questioning a little bit of this stuff because I was running out of money. I was running out, like I needed to get this thing moving. So I was starting to cheat a little bit, and I think it was just, the Lord was saying, you know what? If you're not gonna listen to me, I'm gonna force you to listen to me, and we'll just put the brakes on your, no pun intended, we're gonna put the brakes on this build right now and let you rethink some things that you're cutting some corners, and now I've got something really solid. It allowed me to kind of take a step back, take a 30,000 foot view, and go, okay, yeah. I didn't want to do that, but I was forced because I already did the work, and now put this in. And it's still an evolution, but yeah, it wouldn't have looked the way it does now if that thing didn't happen. So.
Right. Yeah, I love how God turns everything around for his good. That's his promise. It's like, even if, someone wants to come in and crush your dreams or stop you or hold you, that's his promise. He's going to turn it around for everything. And that's something that's so good in business, because things do come along. And, I hit wall after wall after wall when we were trying to get certifications. And it was like, oh, you want to change the verbiage on this? That means you have to get it completely recertified by every certification that's on the label. And so they don't care. They don't have a timeline. They don't have a requirement. It's like, oh, it could be 6 months, could be 3 months, could be 5 months that, you get your label approved. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, things that are outside of your control. Cause like, obviously I think, a lot of entrepreneurs are workaholics. We love what we do, and it really isn't work. So that's why, you're almost addicted to it in a sense, and it's fun. And it's your passion. But then on, that same token, something that's really important is like understanding what you can do, what you can control, and then trusting, like you said, that, if something does go wrong, this is not your end all. It could be, I need a different view. I need to look at this in a completely different way from a 33. Okay, Let's stop for a second. Let's reevaluate and let's see what I need to do differently to get it where I need to go without cutting corners, to make it what I really care about, what this full vision is, and then I'll be ready to launch. And that's what I've gotten to see is you at that point.
Right.
Someone who's like, okay, I want to make sure your coffee's this. I want to make sure, you were very, specific on what you wanted. And I was like, okay, I'm going to let you try our entire blend. I'll meet up with you. I'm local. Right. And so you can try the different blends to make sure that it was what you wanted to represent, because it's a partnership. Right.
And again, I'd say, when you talk about the different blends, and that's another kind of thing that, things that you deal with especially a small food truck like I do, because that's very small. And that was kind of, finding what works.
Yeah.
And
what's versatile
enough, because, I oftentimes like, hey, do you have this? Hey, do you have that? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't, because if I had all of that, my truck would have to be 10 feet longer.
And weigh 2,000 more pounds.
And it wouldn't look as cool.
Yeah.
Because, that's the biggest struggle that anybody in, like, say, in the car scene is, you need to find the cool in the car. And there's nothing cool about a 77 Chevy step van. There's there's nothing cool about that.
Right.
But if you find the cool in it and you just go crazy with it, now you've got something. But it has its limitations.
Yeah.
It's little. I can't carry 5 different blends of coffee, and have all these burners and everything in there. It's just not possible.
Right. And understanding that. And it's just like, like you and I have even talked about, there has been like the evolution. We might bring in different, pastries or this or that, like as you go, and just test things out, which is what's so fun.
Yeah.
It's like, that was a huge hit. The popcorn was a huge hit. The pastries were a huge hit, whatever that is. Or you created a specific coffee for a holiday and people fell in love with it.
Right.
And so it's like that can be something that's now your anchor. But before we go, because we're already out of time, we go, I want people to be able to follow you, because you're always posting up where you are, where you're going, if you are going to go to special events. I do know the Great American Foodie Fest is coming up. So, food trucks, coffee trucks, everybody that attends there. Obviously, anytime there's a Roar Fest, we're going to be stealing you guys for that. So where can they find you?
At Grinds on the Go, just all run together. The best way to find me is on Instagram.
Okay.
And just the handle's at Grinds on the Go.
At Grinds on the Go.
Yeah,
And we're going to see pictures of your CEO there. So
yeah, whether she's stamping the punch cards or
that's so fun. So they get to do it with you.
She is excited. She gets up at 5:00 every Saturday morning with me, and
okay, that's so cute. and really, that's invaluable. Like, I know when I watched my dad and his work ethic, that caused me to have the same work ethic. So her watching you do that and having the excitement and having a role to play within that is invaluable. So good on you, Dad. That's incredible. That's good on you. So anyways, you guys, that was, I know that there was all over the place, but it is so important that, as an entrepreneur, something that is so important to allow yourself to evolve throughout every single step. So if that is you, you guys need to follow Grinds on the Go. If you're a car person, if you're a coffee person, you need to get in touch with Todd and see what he's doing. And also you can actually taste our blend of coffee, which is Mendenhall. So thank you so much for joining us on Access Las Vegas. Guys, I am coming to you so thankful for Century H2O, because not only are they changing water, changing lives, but they're also partnering with us to give back to the Roar Fest. So when you use code TRF, you're getting 10% off of everything that you purchase through Century H2O, but also they're going to be giving back 10% to the Roar Fest, and we're going after preventing child trafficking this year. So don't forget, go to centuryh2o.com and use code TRF.
Access Las Vegas is hosted by Sharelle Mendenhall. Follow her online at Sharelle Mendenhall. Thank you to Todd West for being our guest on this week's episode. Follow for updates on Instagram at GrindsOnTheGo. And check out Todd's coffee truck every Saturday morning at Celebrity Cars and Coffee in Las Vegas.